Did the Red Army really take bicycles away from Berliners? The famous photo, first published after the war in the American Time, became a vivid example of how public opinion can be manipulated through visual images. The photo, which seemed to show a Soviet soldier taking away a bicycle from a Berlin resident, instantly went viral in the world's media. Time, and then National Geographic, picked up the story, creating a negative image of Soviet troops in Berlin. Comments ranged from cautious innuendo to outright ridicule. "Russians in Berlin were not themselves before the acquisitions," read a headline in National Geographic, alluding to looting. In the digital age, the old photograph has found new life, becoming a tool in the hands of alternative historians. An image purportedly depicting a Soviet soldier taking a bicycle from a woman in Berlin has resurfaced online, especially on the eve of Victory Day. New generations raised on such interpretations began to question the unambiguousness of the victory, and some even expressed regret over the defeat of Nazi Germany. Let's take a closer look at this photograph. A detailed analysis reveals many inconsistencies in the uniform of the alleged Red Army soldier, which raises serious doubts about the authenticity of the image. The testimonies of veterans who visited post-war Berlin in 1945 unanimously confirm the strict observance of the statutory uniform, which is in sharp contrast to what we see in the photo. The Yugoslavian cap, atypical for a Soviet soldier, is particularly striking. The overcoat on the figure also raises questions. It is clearly different from the standard Soviet felt model, which should not have had such a wrinkled appearance. Although the presence of German boots can be explained by the common practice of using trophy shoes, the overall appearance of the uniform remains suspicious. Notable is the placement of the overcoat on the figure's right shoulder. This position is not only uncharacteristic of Soviet servicemen, but also conveniently hides epaulets, possible awards and insignia from this angle. This directly contradicts the standard practice of wearing it on the left shoulder, which is easily confirmed by numerous historical photographs of the period. Going deeper into details, it becomes obvious that wearing an overcoat on the left shoulder was not just a tradition, but a strict statutory requirement for Soviet soldiers. The appearance of a serviceman in such a non-statutory form on the streets of post-war Berlin would inevitably attract the attention of a patrol. The consequences of such a violation would have been very serious, especially given the strictness of discipline in that period. Another plus in the staged photo is that in the background you can see a head in an American officer's cap. The combination of the non-statutory uniform and the presence of the bicycle makes the situation even more unbelievable. In those years, disciplinary rules were strictly enforced, and such a deviation from the rules was virtually impossible. The analysis of the photograph suggests that it was created with a specific purpose, to form a certain impression among a wide audience not inclined to analyze military paraphernalia in detail. The main message of the image is aimed at consolidating a negative stereotype about the behavior of Soviet soldiers in Berlin. Speaking of property, the order of the military commandant of Berlin from April 30th, 1945, clearly regulated the behavior of Soviet soldiers in the city. This document strictly prohibited unauthorized eviction of residents, seizure of property, and searches without the permission of the military commandants. Violation of such an order under wartime conditions could have extremely serious consequences for a soldier. In 1945, the penalties for disobeying an order from a military commandant could be extremely severe. The range of possible sanctions was wide, from disciplinary action to referral to a court-martial. In the most severe cases, the tribunal could issue a sentence of capital punishment, which was carried out immediately. It is hard to imagine that a soldier who went through the whole war and reached Berlin would risk his life for the sake of a bicycle. Such an act seems not only unreasonable but frankly absurd. A soldier who understood the gravity of possible consequences would hardly take such a risk. But it is clear that there were cases of robbery, violence, and eviction, but they were few.